Look at this disturbing footage of Epstein recently released.
Now, because the Department of Justice and FBI are not releasing any additional information with really any of these videos or clips, I don't know what to make of that footage.
This is what people are trying to ignore in the Epstein files, and it is beyond disturbing according to what is being described in these documents. Babies were literally killed dismembered, and there are allegations that their intestines were cut open, their faces.
Something about this Epstein file feels different, and it's not just the names, it's the silence, the details they didn't explain, the way people are realizing slowly that this wasn't just one rich guy doing evil things. Because once you really sit with this coming out, it messes with your head. You start asking questions you don't even want answers to. And that's why a lot of Americans aren't just shocked right now. They are genuinely traumatized. I've been reading reactions all day, and people aren't reacting like this is a gossip anymore. This feels personal, like a betrayal. People grew up believing there were lines you don't cross, systems that protect children, powerful people who are held accountable. And now, that illusion is cracking, because the new Epstein files don't just point at crimes, they point at protection. Protection by money, protection by influence, protection by people who you were never supposed to look the other way. And what's scary is realizing how long this went on, how many warnings were ignored, how many victims were silenced while the world kept moving like nothing was wrong. I'm seeing America say things like, I don't feel safe anymore, I don't trust institutions, I don't even know what's real. That's not outrage, that's trauma. This isn't about politics anymore, it's about trusting collapsing in real time. And once trust break at that level, you don't just bounce back from it.
This is what people are trying to ignore in the Epstein files, and it is beyond disturbing according to what is being described in these documents. Babies were literally killed dismembered, and there are allegations that their intestines were cut open, their faces were removed, and people ate it like I am sorry. But that is not normal crime, that is pure evil, and it gets even worse. Because there is also a story about a 16-year-old girl who supposedly kept diary entries written in code describing being raped and impregnated by Epstein. And the most horrifying part is that she was allegedly forced to carry the pregnancy to full term she wasn't T. Given a choice, she wasn't T protected. She was treated like an object. And after she gave birth, they supposedly let her hold the baby for a few minutes, and then they came and ripped the baby away from her and took it. And from that point on, nobody even knows what happened. So when people still sit online and act like, oh, this is fake news, or they remaking up the Epstein files, I am sorry, but you sound delusional, or worse, you sound like someone who just does wanna accept reality because it is too disgusting to face, because these aren't just random. Rumors, the claim is that there are images, written records, and files documenting what happened, and they not even releasing everything. So if you are watching this and still saying none of it is real, you are basically spitting in the face of every victim who came forward. You are invalidating their stories, their trauma, and their lives. At some point, you have to stop pretending it is a conspiracy and start realizing this is exactly how powerful monsters get away with things for decades. Go educate yourself.
There are so many allegations made against Trump and many others in these new Epstein files, so the best way to go through them is person by person. Part 1, Donald Trump. Now, his name does come up a lot, to be more precise, over 1,000 times. In fact, the guy who just produced Melania Trump's new documentary, Brett Ratner, he was actually seen in the files as well, hugging a young girl next to Epstein. Now, just so you know, most of the Trump mentions in these files, there's no allegations of wrongdoing, and they're more like things from news articles that Epstein was referencing in his emails to other people. However, there is one document in particular that has raised a lot of concern online. So last year, the FBI compiled a list of allegations that were made against Trump that they received in 2020 from a tip line that they set up, allowing anyone from the public to phone in and report a crime. And here we see a lot of disturbing allegations against Trump. One of the complaints details a woman who says that she was R-word, I can't say it on here, by Trump when she was just 13 years old. One of the complaints also alleged that Trump and Epstein held, quote, calendar girl parties at Mar-a-Lago, where Trump would auction off young girls and do horrific things to them. A different complaint alleges that Trump's golf course in California was the center of a trafficking ring between 95 and 96, and that some of the girls went missing and were allegedly buried at the facility. The files also include an FBI interview with one of Epstein's victims who stated that Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, once presented her to Trump at a party, and then apparently Ghislaine making it very clear to Trump that this girl was available, with Ghislaine allegedly telling the girl, "Oh, I think he likes you, aren't you lucky? This is great." Now, there are a lot of tips that the FBI received, most of which are so graphic, I can't even repeat them on here. But here's the thing, in the documents themselves, the FBI say that none of these allegations can be substantiated, and that these claims had no supporting evidence to follow up on further. But ultimately, it's up to you guys to look at the facts and make your own minds up. But next, in part 2, we're talking about Bill Gates.
The most important thing to come out of the Epstein files is that Americans have finally come to realize something that the rest of the world has always known, which is that we are truly not free. The Epstein files is not conspiracy. The U.S. Department of Justice have published these files, 3.5 million documents to be exact, with incriminating evidence of the whole U.S. oligarchy doing the most disturbing and disgusting things to an underage group of people. Do you understand? And where is the outrage? Where are people protesting? Where's the calls for impeachment? Where's the call for U.S. regime change here? There's none. And that's mainly because Americans have finally come to accept that they are not free. What are we going to protest? And to protest, we have to get permits from the city just to have permission to protest against them. This is one of the many things that are found in the Epstein files. A woman accuses Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas of blank her when she was 4 or 5 years old in a church. The Epstein files literally name all of the U.S. oligarchy, from Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Trump, tech giants like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, Supreme Court justices like Clarence Thomas. I mean, it goes on and on. Hollywood, actors and actresses and directors and financiers and Wall Street, the list goes on. And the fact that people have become so hopeless and helpless is a reflection of people realizing that they are not free, that there is nothing that we can do to bring this regime down. What set America apart from the rest of the world was always our Constitution. The freedom of speech, the freedom to bear arms, the freedom to protest, etc. Except now people are realizing that that is all an illusion. People used to say, well, at least we can make fun of the government. At least we can make fun of the president. Well, is that still true? Trump threatens to sue Trevor Noah over Epstein joke at the Grammys. When people begin to feel this helpless and hopeless, and they start to realize that they can't punch up, they start to punch down. They start to punch across. And that's exactly what's happening in this country, is that we are on the brink of civil war. People are fighting each other. And that's not just happening in the United States. It's happening in Italy, in the UK, in France. It's happening across the entire Western world. People are realizing that they're not free, especially in the West. And that's waking them the fuck up. But this is also the beginning of a massive collective awakening that we are long overdue for.
Everyone is so shocked that on those Epstein files, they said that they were eating babies. When you were a slave 400, 500 years ago, well, probably longer than that, they were eating us over and over again. They were eating our babies. They were putting our teeth in their mouth. They were literally taking what they could from us to replace what they had that was rotting. They were feeding our babies to alligators. Head first, by the way. So when you think about stuff like that, and then it comes out and they're saying, oh, they were doing this to babies, and it's not as surprising as you think. It also just makes me think that Get Out wasn't just a horror film. But that's another conversation for a different day.
In an interview, Epstein was asked, do you believe you're the devil himself? And he kind of brushed off the question. He didn't really answer it correctly. And if he were completely honest, he would have said yes. Because the things that he did on that island were absolutely horrific. Only Satan himself could do. There's like a whole iceberg of things that Epstein has done. The top of the iceberg would be things that literally everyone knows, like the human trafficking and the horrible stuff that he did to underage females. And then the middle of the iceberg is stuff that they kind of had to release on the Epstein files. That being the, eating babies, human sacrifice, etc., etc. And then the absolute bottom of the iceberg is stuff that we still don't know. Because even though the files released and they say all this horrible stuff, there were still so many redactions and stuff that they had time to hide. Just, I don't know, the thought of him, sacrificing humans is insane and something that an actual human would not do to another human. Like, that's on another level of murder, bro. Like, that's not just murder. That is giving a human to the devil for your own gain. That's crazy. That is devil material.
The Hollywood people that are in on the Epstein files, have y'all not seen the videos of them telling us that they eat babies and people? And they talk about it in plain sight. They're literally hiding in plain sight. And it sounds so crazy that you think, no, there's no way. If y'all don't think there's some satanic, demonic shit going on all in Hollywood, you're crazy. Release more of those files. Imagine what they're not telling us. They're picking what they want to release. Imagine what they're not releasing and how crazy that is. Every conspiracy theorist I know right now, including myself, it's not so much of a conspiracy, is it? People need to wake up, and I think it's happening.
Listen, I knew the Epstein files were bad. I read them. I didn't know it was that bad. You guys don't understand. I don't know if you guys have read it. It's public information online now. This dude was literally like killing and eating babies. There are messages and emails about him describing like baby intestines and like all that stuff as like a cream cheese. It's so weird. The references to cannibalism is just so disturbing, and the fact that so many of them on that island and anyone acquainted with him did that kind of stuff, it's just wild to me. I know there's evil in the world, right? We all know there's evil in the world, but this is like beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And all the conspiracy theorists dating back to the early 2000s and stuff, when they were saying the elite are eating kids for like adrenochrome or whatever. Not sure if the adrenochrome thing is true, but obviously, I mean, we know the elites are eating kids now. All those crazy conspiracy theorists turn out to be right about this kind of stuff. Also, too, apparently Epstein is also responsible for Call of Duty microtransactions, like the alt-right pipeline. Just probably every bad thing you can imagine. That's just touching the surface. I gotta make a longer video on this later, but let me know your thoughts. Let me know what the craziest thing the files you've read have been so far. It's just blowing my mind.
The reason that they don't care that you know that they're PDFs is because they're doing things that are much, 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 much worse than that. They're eating people.
Okay, so trigger warning, I'm going to talk about cannibalism and my experience. Well, I can't say for certain if the person that I'm stitching is like telling the truth. I will say that there are more people than we may think that support or at least defend things like cannibalism. In my abusive relationship was the first time I realized people may, that maybe cannibalism is more common than we know, the public understands, and there are people who defend it, especially people in positions of power. I haven't really spoken about like my full story of what happened to me, but essentially imagine girl moves to LA, falls into a crowd of rich, wealthy, waspy white people with generational wealth and work in the entertainment industry. I was not raised like that. My dad is straight from Greece, came here when he was 19. We're a family of immigrants. My mom is a teacher. We just don't, it's not how I was raised or grew up. Like, I didn't have money. So imagine meeting someone who kind of introduces you to this world of people, and for a little bit before it turned into like an actual psychological thriller or horror movie, it did feel like I was like Cinderella. And in this environment, it was very like waspy, white, rich people, again, with generational wealth. So that's the backstory overview, and now I'm going to paint a picture of the incident. Imagine me in the kitchen of somebody's very large house in Pasadena. At the time that Army Hammer cannibalism news story broke, and I remember just off the cuff being like, I feel so bad for the victim, can you imagine what she must be going through? Normal response I had assumed would be, that's horrific, that's awful, how can somebody try and eat somebody, like pieces of somebody, right? Like that's like holy shit. What actually ended up happening was me arguing with people in that kitchen to the point where I got so flustered I was almost in tears, trying to explain to adults that cannibalism is wrong, despite if there was like any NDA signed or whatever. Because, like, by the way, an NDA does not protect you against something, like if it's illegal. So I think I was very naive back then. I'm still naive to a point where I believe, and I believed then, that if I just explained enough to these very rich, waspy people, the issue was that they didn't understand. And that if I had explained enough, I believed then, and I think up until very, very recently, like a week ago, believe now, that if I had explained to these people enough and broke it down why this is wrong, they would understand. And I think the same thing goes with why I made this TikTok, right, about DV education, SA, violence against women, and getting so flustered sometimes when I see people defend abusers and see people defend, like, SA. And I used to believe it's because they don't understand. And if there was enough education out there, we would support victims, right? More victims would be supported. I believe, like, some people just want you to spin your wheels, just explaining to a grown adult that something is wrong gives them plausible deniability. I'm also recommending the book, The Gift of Fear, and also the book Without a Conscience. I'm being very choice with my words here. If you're like, she's using words that are fluffy, it's because, like, I don't want to get sued. I also I'm telling my story, and it's a little bit, like, even now I'm telling it and, like, really trying not to cry. So I don't want to go too deep, but it was a terrifying experience. There are people out there that are okay with cannibalism. A lot of them are in the entertainment industry, or politicians, who knows? Allegedly.
They ate babies, bro. They ate babies. They ate children. Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't sleep, bro. I have not been able to sleep. You know what they said? They taste like cream cheese. Oh my God. Nah, because if you don't believe in Satan anymore, I don't know what to say. Because this is crazy. This is demonic. This isn't just like, oh, like some person. Like, this is not normal. This isn't just normal human behavior. This is demonic. This is for Satan. This is pure evil. Period. He literally had an account named Baal. Baal. That's a satanic demon. Known for what? Human sacrifice. Why? Why? Is that a coincidence? I think not. No, I really don't. This has literally been talked about in the Bible. It's been there, bro. This is just the cherry on top to all of it. In Revelation 12:9, it says Satan is the deceiver of the world. Yes. Dang straight, bro. Dang straight. Satan is the ruler of the world. We've been knowing that. All over the Bible it talks about it. Satan literally runs this world. All the elites, you know where they get all their fame, all their power, all their money from? All of a sudden they just have so much power. They have everlasting power that they can't get rid of. It's because they talk to the demons. They interact with the demons, bro. They do these things not just for fun. They get something out of it. They get everything they want. Satan gives them everything they want by doing these things. Why do you think they go after children? Why do you think they go after children? Because they're the closest to God. They're the most innocent. They're the most pure souls. Coincidence? I think not. All of this is saying is that it's not left versus right, bro. They're all in it, newsflash. All right? It's good versus evil. It's Jesus versus Satan. I don't know what else it is. This world is screwed up. It's screwed up, and Jesus has warned us about this. And now's the time. Now's the time to fight. Now's the time to fight with the good, with Jesus. I've never been more horrified in my life. Kind of figured this was happening just because of how screwed up the world is, but actually seeing it, I want to vomit. And now more than ever, we need God. We really do.
They talked about child sacrifice. They talked about child mutilation and torture. They removed the intestines from babies, you guys. There was talk about cloning. There was talk about child pregnancies. There was talk about cannibalism. This is literally everything that we have been telling you about for 10 years. I know since 2020, any video that I had ever posted about it would get my account banned. I was literally banned 2 to 3 times a year for posting about this. So why now? Why all of a sudden do they want the truth out? Is it because they want the public mad of something they can't control? It's like they want us to believe that all the bad guys are gone because they took down the one that the media pushed for the most. But what about Harvey Weinstein? What about the Wiener laptop? What about John of God, John Podesta? What about Peter Nygaard? What about all the co-conspirators that help these elite traffickers traffic children across the world? Because we know they can't do it alone. There have been way too many perpetrators in Hollywood, way too many perpetrators in our government for me to ever trust that they have finally taken down the bad guy. At this point, it just feels like one big therapy session where you sit down, you tell the therapist all the things you've done wrong, and you feel better at the end of the day. And there's no consequences. And after all the years they could have told us the truth, they choose now. Why?
So, 3.5 million pages of Epstein files dropped today. I have been going through them for hours. I'm not done. No one is done. This is going to take weeks, but I need to tell you what I'm finding so far because this is significant. I'm Eliza Orland's career public defender for 15 years in Manhattan. And so I've seen a lot, but this is different. And so I want to start with a trigger warning. And you know this if you've been following the Epstein files coverage, whether it's mine or anyone else's, this stuff is heavy. So please be gentle with yourself because reading through this material day after day, trying to verify things, trying to report it accurately, trying not to sensationalize it, but also not minimize it, it is a lot. It's a fucking lot. Okay, so let me walk you through what I'm finding. First of all, let's talk about Elon Musk. Musk has said publicly multiple times that Epstein tried to repeatedly get me to visit his island and I refused. He posted that on X, direct quote. And when Forbes put out an article saying that Elon Musk planned a trip to Epstein's private island, newly released documents show, Elon tweeted back, "This is false." Well, the new batch of emails tells a very different story. In November 2012, years after Jeffrey Epstein was convicted and adjudicated a sex offender, Epstein asks how many people Musk is bringing for the helicopter to the island. Musk responds, probably just Tallulah and me. What day/night will be the wildest party on your island? The wildest party on a registered sex offender's island. 1 month later, Christmas Day 2012, Musk emails Epstein again. Do you have any parties planned? I've been working to the edge of sanity this year, and so once my kids head home after Christmas, I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's, sick, or elsewhere and let loose. The invitation is much appreciated, but a peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I'm looking for. Elon Musk is not refusing anything. He's asking for more. He's saying the island isn't wild enough, that he doesn't want a peaceful experience. He's actively pursuing Jeffrey Epstein for parties over multiple months. Then fast forward to February 2013. Epstein emails the CEO of Activision Blizzard. The girls and I are going to see Elon Musk at SpaceX tomorrow. The girls. His assistant confirms it. Jeffrey Epstein and 3 of his assistants are in California and going to visit SpaceX at 1 o'clock today. We know what the girls meant. We know what Jeffrey Epstein's assistants were. Then, December 2013, a full year later, Musk is still at it. We'll be in the BVI St. Bart's area over the holidays. Is there a good time to visit? Epstein, I will send heli for you. Always space for you. So when Elon Musk tells you he refused Epstein's invitation, well, we have the receipts now. 2 years of emails, him asking for parties, him asking for the wildest night, Epstein sending helicopters. He wasn't refusing anything. Then there's Donald Trump, of course. An FBI interview from today's release, a 302, describes how Ghislaine Maxwell operated at parties. A victim tells the FBI that Maxwell brought her to a party in New York and presented her to Donald Trump. Her word, presented, like merchandise. They talked for about 20 minutes. The victim was then invited to Mar-a-Lago, where Trump personally gave her a tour with Epstein and Maxwell present. The FBI report says, quote, nothing happened between the victim and Trump. But here's what else it says. Maxwell made clear to the victim that she was available. Maxwell said things like, oh, I think he likes you. Aren't you lucky? This is great. And oh, he'll like this, doesn't like that. The report says it was, quote, set up very much like how Maxwell introduced the victim to Epstein. The same playbook, the same presentation, at Mar-a-Lago. Maxwell also introduced this same victim to other men at these events. Their names? Redacted. Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, I need to warn you again because what I'm about to describe in these FBI documents released today is a victim's account of what happened to her, and it's horrific. A victim who was 16 years old describes how Epstein's assistant Sarah would call her every time Epstein was in Palm Beach and schedule appointments for her visit. Each time, she says, something new was introduced. Each time, additional monies were produced and offered to get her to comply. She describes being forced to perform sex acts with Epstein and another woman. She says Epstein would photograph them and proudly display the photographs within the home. And then she describes what happened during one massage. She says Epstein grabbed her, turned her over onto her stomach on the massage table, and, quoting from the document, forcibly inserted his penis into her vagina. She says her head was being held against the table. She screamed no, and Epstein stopped. Afterward, he apologized and he paid her $1,000. She said he still continued to display the photographs of her throughout the house. This is who Jeffrey Epstein was. Not a socialite, not a financier, a violent rapist who paid children after assaulting them and then hung their pictures on his walls. Okay, so let's talk about what's still hidden, though. The DOJ identified over 6 million pages covered by the Epstein Files Transparency Act. They've released 3.5 million to this point, barely half. And here's what's happening. Survivors' names are appearing unredacted in these documents. Their information is being exposed. Meanwhile, the powerful men who abused them, still redacted behind black bars. There's an FBI chart from 5 days after Epstein's death listing 8 co-conspirators. Only 2 faces are visible, Maxwell and Jean-Luc Brunel. 6 are still redacted. 6 co-conspirators still protected. Survivors released a statement today. Quote, this is being sold as transparency, but what it actually does is expose survivors. Once again, survivors are having their names and identifying information exposed, while the men who abused us remain hidden and protected. They're protecting the wrong people. Okay, well, that's what I have so far. There's a lot more coming. Please be gentle with yourselves. This material is brutal. If you need to step away, step away. And I could use some of that grace too, because I'm sitting here alone reading about children being raped and trying to figure out how to tell you about it accurately. And it's hard. So be kind to yourselves and kind to the people who are doing this work. More soon. Please make sure you're following for updates.
Y'all got to know that this week coming is going to be a lot of distractions. They dropped those files with 3 million pages. Mind you, that's still not all of the files. They have 3 million more that they still haven't released. You have video footage of Jeffrey Epstein running around his kitchen, chasing what it appears to be little girls. You have an email from Bill Gates stating that Bill Gates gave his wife an STD and was asking Jeffrey Epstein for antibiotics. Mind you, Bill Gates came out and said that's not true. Really? You have emails with Elon Musk practically begging Jeffrey Epstein to come to Epstein Island. Also asking him what nights do he have the wildest parties. Mind you, Elon was the one that was saying that the president is in the Epstein files. Elon, you're in the Epstein files too. Elon said he wasn't in those files. Elon said he never wanted to go to that island. I think that was wrong. They mentioned Pusha T. They said allegedly he was a handler. They mentioned Sammy Sosa. Allegedly, they said he was at a party where women was being auctioned off. They even said that allegedly, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous star Robin Leach strangled young girls at a party in those Epstein files. And they also said that Jay-Z was mentioned in those files. And if you've seen 50 Cent's page, you know 50 Cent is about to have a field day with that. And this is for entertainment purposes only, but I need you to look at the timeline. Look at all the things that's happening. Look at all the distractions. Look how they tried to claw tooth and nail just so those files wouldn't come out. Mind you, again, they released 3 million pages, and there are 3 million more. Go through the files. See how they mention other big names. And then ask yourself, why would they want to continuously hide this and sweep this under the rug like nothing ever happened? Again, this is about to be a week for distraction because all of this shit came out. So the big wigs are going to try and sweep this shit right back under the rug. Don't let them. I'm out.
What's hurting people isn't just what's being revealed, it's what still might never come out. And that's the part no one knows how to process, because when the truth finally shows up this dark, you are forced to confront something uncomfortable. Maybe the world isn't broken, maybe it was built this way, and once you see that, you don't unsee it. Thanks for watching this video. Do well to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.